Well, hello, everyone. It is Monday again. I don't know if it's because I'm old, but my life goes really fast. Kevin, you probably don't experience that at all.
Oh, never. No. My life is slow and boring and just easy pace of life. Now, I was talking to someone just the other day, like we're middle of September. Like we keep moving, but it's Monday. I'm excited. Did you have a good weekend?
I had such a fun weekend. I'll tell you about it and bore you. But I have 8 other friends from college. This is 1989, Kevin, that we met. So since we've graduated, there's 9 of us who get together once a year and try and make it a priority to get together for a long weekend and enjoy each other's company. And we just had a blast down in San Antonio, Texas. So it was amazing. Amazing women who really spur me on to be the best version of me that I can possibly be. So it was like a big, I don't know, it's sort of like I get to go to the gas station and fill up, once a year. So how
Yeah.
about you? What was your weekend like?
I love it. Fairly similar, although not with old college friends. Had a little a men's kind of mini retreat with Jeremy. Got to hang out with your husband a little bit over the weekend. Had some friends that we gathered with on Saturday night as well, and then spent some time with family last night. I was telling Megan, my wife, last night as we went to bed, it was a busy weekend, but a very refilling weekend. Like I ended the weekend exhausted, but in a great way and ready to come into the week. So it wasn't exhausted like, oh gosh, and now tomorrow I have to go. We got to start over again. It was man, I'm tired, but also full. Let's go. So it was a great weekend.
That's good. Great. Well, neat. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We are always thankful when you come and meet us. And so I see a couple people here. Jeff, Overland Park, Kansas. Great place. What a pretty place. I've been there. Thanks for joining us. And then others on Facebook and LinkedIn. So always let us know where you're tuning in from. It's just fun to see everyone. So today, our subject, how our thoughts shape our actions. I'm excited about this. And I love that, of course, this is on Mondays. We did that on purpose just to make sure that we're intentional and make sure we visit every Monday our mindset and make sure we're in the right spot, right place. So, Kevin, what you got for us today?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? And so the idea today is to think about what you think about, right? Because what you think about shapes how you act, it shapes how you speak, it shapes how you live. And so those actions obviously shape our reality. So the simple formula is that your thoughts shape your actions that create your reality. And if you think negatively, if you think about things from a negative perspective, or if you think on things that cause you to be negative, cause you to be anxious, cause you to not be at peace, cause you to be nervous or worry, well, that's going to shape your actions throughout the day. And Mondays are one of those days that has a really negative feel to it for everyone, right? Oh, you got a case of the Mondays. Everyone kind of dreads Monday. Well, we have bad Mondays because we dread Monday, right? We've thought about Monday in a negative way. And so that means we tend to approach Monday in a negative way. And so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I tried to shift this thinking years ago, say, no, I actually love Mondays. Mondays are great. It's a fresh start. Whatever happened last week happened and it's over, good or bad. Monday's a new day. It's a new opportunity. It's a new week. What's possible? And so that allows me to now enter in Mondays with a different mindset. I expect good things instead of expecting, oh, I've got that 9:30 meeting and my boss is so difficult. And well, no, I wake up saying, great, what's on the agenda for today? What do I get to do today? And again, I know that can be cheesy, right? What do I have to do versus what do I get to do? But I'm always going to keep going back to this question of what's the alternative, right? You don't have to think positively. You don't have to change the way you think, but you're going to be really upset with the outcome of that, right? You have to live with those consequences of your negative actions that come from your negative thinking. So I want us to think about what we think about. And this is true of work that we do. This is true of people that we interact with. You know, if you think negatively about a person, oh, they're such a difficult person. They're always angry. They're always negative. They never listen. Well, you're telling yourself a negative story about that person. Well, you're not going to take those thoughts and then act better towards that person. Right? If I don't think you're a good listener, if I think you're negative, if I think you're just going to shut me down, I'm not going to come into a conversation with you with optimism, with purpose, wanting to connect, wanting to see how you're doing. I'm coming into a conversation wanting to get out of there as fast as I can and just assuming that it's not going to go well. Well, what that person's going to experience from me is, and this person's not very engaged. They don't seem to really care. They just want to get out of here quickly. And so in turn, they don't bring their best to the conversation. And that story just goes on repeat, right? Again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I know Maria, one of our giants at last year's 100X Leader Summit, had a great phrase. We often say, what's it like to be on the other side of our leadership? But she phrased it a little differently. And what is the experience that people are having around you? Well, if people aren't having a good experience around you, that's a result of your actions and your words. Well, those actions and words are a result of the way that you think. And so better thinking leads to better actions, leads to better outcomes, leads to better reality with people. And what's really difficult about this is I know you get the pushback like, look, I can't control what I think about. What I think is what I think. And I just don't think that's true. I think, we're going to use the word think, right, apparently 500 times in this episode. You can't control your first thought, right? You have a thought tendency. The way that you think is a tendency. And I would argue that most of us, and personality plays into this a little bit, but it's also, we've talked about it before, mindset is a muscle, right? The more you work it out, the stronger it gets, the better you get at it. But most of us, I think, have a negative thought tendency. When something happens to us, when a day begins, in new seasons, in the midst of change, our first thought tends to be negative. And so again, we act on that and we create certain realities around that. I would say own your second thought, right? Hear that first thought, recognize that first thought and say, wait a minute, if I act on this, this is where that leads to. And that's not a place that I want to be. And so realizing, okay, I've got that thought, but I don't have to act on that. That thought doesn't have to shape who I am or how I operate. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to choose a better second thought. So I think that's really the key with this, is to realize that your first thought is what it is. Don't ignore it, but recognize it and then choose a better thought. Any thoughts on any of that, Tracy? Hey, Tracy, I think you're muted.
Oh my goodness.
There we go. Hey, it's Monday. Technology. It's okay. It happens.
2020. It's the theme of 2020. Hey, you're muted, right? You'd think I'd know by now. But anyway, I was saying to all of myself there that I'm what we call in the giant world a guardian pioneer, and I'm all about tasks. And so sometimes if I'm not careful on a Monday or every morning, if I don't remind myself that tasks actually need to go a little bit there below people, that I'll just rush into my day, right? And so when you talk about that first instinct and then your second, my first instinct to say on an email is just to say, hey, can we get this done? Or do we need to do this? Or what time do you do it? And I forget to go, good morning. How are you today? Kevin, how was your weekend? Tell me about your family. And so you're right. Sometimes that first instinct is actually wrong. And my mindset has to be set straight every day, not just on Mondays, but to make sure that people are up here and tasks are down below. So that's just kind of one of my tendencies.
Yeah, that's right. And even today, we've talked before, I think I have a morning routine, even though I'm not a routine person. I do start my mornings off intentionally. And part of that is to get into the right mindset for the day, right? You're not going to have the right mindset on accident. I know that. I'm aware of that. So I have to lead myself better to get into that mindset. Well, I usually wake up around the same time. I don't use alarms because I have kids, and my kids usually wake up really early every day. And so that gives me plenty of time to get a cup of coffee, to read, to journal, to kind of get into the right mindset and to spend time with them so that it's not just a rush of chaos, right, throughout the house in our morning. Well, today everyone slept in almost an hour. And so I didn't have time. I just had to get up, shower, and get ready to get the kids out the door because I take them to school every day. So I didn't get time for my typical routine. And I had the thought like, oh gosh, here I am talking about mindset and I'm already frazzled. I'm already negative. This day is not going how I wanted it to go. I'm going to talk about mindset without being in the right mindset. And that was my first thought. Okay, that's fine. Right? I don't have to beat myself up over that. I said, wait a minute. No, that's not true. Just because I overslept doesn't mean I don't get to have a good mindset today. How I get there is going to look different, right? And so it was when I got to the office, I did a couple things. Nobody was here, dropped my kids off at school. And so I used the time that I would have used at home here in the office when it was silent so that I could do that and get into the right mindset. And so I think part of it is that we we make excuses and we get really frazzled, and we say we want to have a right mindset until stress hits, until we oversleep, until an unexpected meeting gets called, until whatever. It's like, no, we still get to choose how we show up in those moments. So the day, again, we tell our kids often, it's hard to have a bad day with a good attitude. And that's true with mindset, right? If you have a bad attitude, you will have a bad day, and everyone around you is going to have a bad day. But we want to own our leadership, own the experience across from us, and make sure we have the right mindset.
That's good. So what do we do if we're either living with someone or closely working with someone with a terrible mindset? I mean, we can do our part, right? So what do we do when we're in that situation?
Yeah, I think it's difficult, right? And I think we have to be really careful about how we label people, and not label people as difficult people. We talked earlier this year at our summit, like, people are not culture killers. Their behaviors are, their insecurity is, their fear is, and realize that people aren't choosing to be difficult, right? The people in your family, in your organization, maybe your boss would say that about you. People aren't choosing to be difficult. The problem is that they're not choosing to not be difficult, right? They're not waking up and leading themselves well. And so to believe, again, how we think about that person matters. So let's not label people as difficult people. Let's try to figure out what's causing what we're receiving as negativity, as maybe too much criticism, as an unhealthy mindset. But it does start with us. Right, we have to get healthy first. We have to have the right mindset first, and then we can multiply that to other people, right? You can't give what you don't possess. So you're not going to help someone around you in your circle of influence have a better mindset if you don't do that work first, because that gives you credibility, that gives you real influence, even just to say, hey, this has been an issue for me too. Here's what I've been doing to work on it. But I think if you can think about that person in a different way, you're going to want to approach them and communicate with them and lead them in a different way. And so to think about them as, man, they're not choosing to be negative or difficult. There's something causing it. Maybe it's a lack of self-awareness. Maybe it's stress. Maybe they just don't know what it's like to be on the other side of them. And so what if you could be the person to fight for them and say, hey, man, I see you as up here. Like, I think you're an incredible boss. You're an incredible person, incredible leader, incredible teammate. But the experience that I and others are having right now is actually down here. And I don't want that for you, because I know that's not who you are. And again, bring that back to yourself. I know I have a tendency to do the same thing. But what we're experiencing right now is a lot of negativity and a lot of criticism. I'm not attacking you. I'm not critiquing you with that. I'm actually fighting for you. Is everything okay? Is there anything going on? Anything I can help you with? Any burdens I can take off your plate? And so you actually serve that person and say, it's you fighting for them, right? You're holding a mirror up, say, do you see what it's like to be on the other side of you? But this is what it could be. This is what could be on the other side of you. But again, if we just label them as difficult, we don't expect that change. If we label them as difficult, we never actually fight for them. We just kind of cast them to the side. We have resigned expectations for them. And we settle for a new frustration, or a new normal of frustration and disconnect and bitterness. And it's like, well, that's not okay. Now, what I'm not going to guarantee is that this approach works, right? People are people, and they have to choose to let down that wall of self-preservation. They have to choose to listen to what you're saying, choose to receive it the right way. But it gives you a much better chance to have that healthy outcome, as opposed to labeling them as a negative person, thinking about them as a difficult person, and then treating them as such.
Yeah, someone's asking, what if, you mentioned even if it's your boss, but really in reality, what if that's your boss and you don't feel comfortable saying anything to your boss? You just don't have that rapport with them. You just model the mindset only and back off, or what do you think?
Yeah, this is where it gets tough. I think it's two things. A couple different options here is one, it's not, if you don't say something, who will? Right? It's not going to get better unless it gets addressed. And that's an issue we have in teams a lot, is there are issues and we never speak up about them. And we just keep getting upset and bitter and frustrated. It's like, well, people can't fix issues that they don't know exist, right? Because again, choose to think better about that person and think, man, they're not choosing to act this way. Because nobody would choose to wake up and act that way, right? No boss is choosing to wake up and say, man, I'm going to be a jerk today. I'm going to be demanding of my people. I'm going to dominate them. I'm going to be negative and critical. Like, nobody wakes up choosing that. Something is causing it. And so number one, realize it's not going to get fixed until it gets addressed. And if we're not willing to address it, then we have to accept that it's just not going to get better. And are you okay with that reality? But I think there is some self-awareness in saying, you know what, I might not have enough. Steve and Mike in their Personality Yoda live stream on Friday, Steve referenced this great concept of your influence bank account. You might not have enough influence in your account to actually bring that challenge to your boss. And that's okay, because if you do, that could cause some damage if you don't have enough influence. And so I think it's finding who influences them, right? Who are the influencers in their life? Who do they listen to that you can maybe approach, say, hey, you know, here's what I'm experiencing from Bill, you know, and it's frustrating. I believe that's not really who he is. I know he can get better. I know he can be better. And I know he listens to you. So would you mind having this conversation? Because I want to make sure it goes well. I don't want him to think I'm being negative or critical. We don't have a close enough relationship. And so finding the people who they actually listen to help them get better. That is a way of fighting for them.
That's great. That's great. I know this is such a simple, silly kind of thing, but I know at one place that I worked, we had a dollar jar where if you were a complainer and someone caught you, you had to put $1 in there, which I think, you know, it's just a good reminder, like, let's just find little things to help each other, especially if you're on a team and you're leading a team and you're really wanting to head in a certain direction. What can you do, right?
That's right.
Because a lot of it is habit. We get in this rut of being a complainer. It's kind of our society. We tend to, sometimes our society, we find the bad. You know, if you get on social media, you'll see a lot of people complaining. And so sometimes it's just a big jolt. Hey, let's stop that.
Right. That's right. And we've tried to implement a rule in our house with our kids: no complaining and no blaming. Because I think we have a thought tendency towards negativity. And so if that's all you're thinking about, that's what's coming out of you, right? If you're not thinking about things that give you purpose, that give you positivity, that bring peace, you're not going to act that way, right? You're going to act out of anxiety, out of stress, out of fear, out of self-preservation, and always looking for the negative. You know, you could walk in. I think most people, and I'm thinking this as I say this, so who knows if this is true, but I think most people actually are fairly okay with life. But we find the 2% or 5% that isn't how we expected it to be, and we focus on that. And that makes us think that we're actually dissatisfied with life, when it's really just that one little piece. And that doesn't, I'm not saying to ignore that, but we give that way too much weight. You could walk, let's say you're home, for example. Maybe there's one room in your house that you don't like, and you would just love to change this room. And you just focus on that room. Well, you love your house. If someone were to ask, like, hey, what about this room? Oh, this room's amazing. We do this in this room, and I love this about you. Actually, if you thought about it, you really enjoy your house. You like most of your house, but we tend to focus on the one part that we don't, and we get really negative, and that shapes how we interact with everything around us. And so instead of thinking about the things that stir up negativity, it's like, think about the things that stir up purpose and positivity and peace, because you want to give what you do possess. Right? And you want to possess the right things.
Yeah. So Margaret gives a great thing. She says, in that regard, I found that remaining positive will eventually cause the other person to recognize the negativity within themselves and then begin to think differently. Yeah. Just setting that great example.
That's right. Now, I think you want to live in such a way that people start to, and hopefully this comes across right, but in a healthy way, question themselves. It's like, man, something about Tracy's different. Like, whatever she has, I need some of that, because she walks around with purpose and positivity, productivity. She's not complaining. She's not negative. Doesn't mean she ignores issues. Like, I mean, she's healthy. Like, she's just got a healthy mindset, and that makes everyone around them better. Why don't I have that? And again, don't call yourself out. Don't shame yourself over that. Just use that to reflect and say, well, what's actually causing me to live down here and think down here, as opposed to thinking up here so that I can live up here. And we had a conversation earlier. I've noticed this with certain leaders who, in this season, in the midst of COVID, right, everyone's thinking negatively. They're complaining, they're whining, and I get it, because it's out of stress and frustration and exhaustion. But we don't want to use those as excuses to say, no, the standard is the standard, right? If it goes away under stress, then it's not our standard, it's not our value, it's actually just a talking point. But there have been other leaders who have decided to work on themselves and get better and have a healthier mindset. And people are walking around saying, man, when did you become an optimist? not what I expected from you. And it's like, it's not that the person became an optimist. They just started working on themselves and started thinking differently. And again, asking themselves the question, well, I kind of decided what's the alternative? To walk around being negative and being a pessimist? Like, no, I want to believe the best. Because if I think better thoughts, I'm going to have better actions and better outcomes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to Margaret's second thought here, where she says, I found that asking them if they're okay will help them recognize how they've been coming across, which is really good. I've had somebody do that before. Hey, you don't seem like yourself today. Are you okay? Then you realize, oh, wow, everything that's going on inside is actually coming out. I should check myself. And it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay
That's
that
right.
you are not perfect in your life. It's how we deal with them, right? But if we're putting that on everyone else and they can feel it, then someone kind of jolting them to say, we can see it. Is there somehow we can help? It might be a cry for help. So.
That's right. And that's a safe question, right? It's not, man, what's your deal today? And all of a sudden their wall is right back up. It's like, what do you mean? What's my deal? What's your deal? It's, hey, are you all right? Kind of seem a little bit off. And maybe they don't respond. And maybe that's them. Maybe you don't have enough influence, whatever it may be. But at least it's probably going to get them thinking like, oh, okay, you know what? Something is off today. I need to address something. And maybe you're a safe place to talk about it, hopefully, right? To help them get better. Again, you can again share your own stories of, hey, we've all been there, but it doesn't have to be that way. And again, to your point, Tracy, we're going to have bad days, right? That's okay. We're human. We are imperfect. You just want to have more good days than bad days. And if you have a bad day, acknowledge why. Like, man, why did I not think the right way today? What took me off track? What took me off the path, so that you can have a better day tomorrow, right? You don't want to start stacking up bad days that turn into bad weeks and bad months and bad years. Like, no, let a bad day be a bad day, and then move on and renew your mindset the next day, right? It is I found with mindset, it is a consistent renewal. I mean, it's not, you don't just decide today to have a good mindset and you're good. It's like, all right, I'm good mindset. Now everything's fine. And I've also found that when you decide to engage in this battle of having a better mindset, the battle gets a lot more difficult, right? I will just guarantee you that as you set on this path of developing a strong mindset consistently in your life, you will face battle after battle after battle, after obstacle, after adversity. And adversity always exists, but it feels like it gets a lot louder and a lot bigger when you're trying to be intentional with how you approach it. So just stay the course. Right? It's a little bit better every day. Think a little bit better today than you did yesterday. And you just keep making progress.
That's good. You've used a phrase around here before. I can't remember exactly. It's something like, your thoughts create your actions, which is it your reality?
Yep, that's right. That's right. And so again, if you have a negative reality, work backwards.
Yeah.
What actions did I take? Again, don't put it on the other person. Look at you first. Right? Our responsibility is us first. What actions did I take? How did I speak in that meeting? Why did I speak that way? How did I work on that project? Well, why did I work that way? How did I word that email? Well, why? And then that will lead you back to your thoughts. Like, well, I just assumed they're going to say no, or I was really busy and didn't prepare, or I thought this meeting was a waste of time. Whatever it may be, the way you think shapes the way you act. And the way you act is going to shape the reality and the outcomes around you. And so it all goes back to our thought life, right? Think about what you think about.
That's right. Yeah, we refer here a lot to the book, The 100X Leader by Stephen Jeremy, and we talk about that Sherpa mindset. And what we're saying is these amazing people, the Sherpa who lead climbers up a mountain, you just don't want a Sherpa with a bad attitude, right? You just
That's
don't.
right.
It wouldn't work. That just doesn't work. So that mindset. So even if you're not, I guess, in your workplace, the manager or the CEO, it doesn't matter. You can still lead through your own example of a great mindset.
That's right. And too many people say, well, I'll think like a leader and I'll act like a leader when I am a leader, right? When I get into that role, then I was like, no, start now. Don't wait, because if you're not living these things now in your position, and again, there's positional influence and there's relational influence, and mindset leads to relational influence. But you think about it, if you show up accidentally and maybe negatively and thinking about not giving your best because you're not in the leadership chair, in the leadership role yet, why would someone ever put you in that chair? Because they're gonna say, man, this person has a lot of potential, but they're living down here consistently. We're not seeing them take ownership. Well, instead, if you today, whatever your role, choose to start living up here and thinking up here, well, then you start gaining more and more influence with those around you. You become a subculture leader, whether you have a title or not, right? You're an influencer and a subculture leader on that team, in that organization. And the leaders notice that, like, hey, this is the person we need to develop, we need to promote. This is the person we need to make sure we communicate with and get on board, because they're going to impact everyone else. And so you start to gain that influence, and you'll start to move up more quickly because you lead yourself well first. So don't wait until you get in that role. Start today, right? This is leadership again. It always starts with you, and today's a great day to start.
Absolutely. So yeah, everyone, great way to start, great day to start. So Kevin, thank you as always. I do want to encourage everyone who's watching. We have many live streams going out throughout the week. Tomorrow I'll be with Chris Ediger, and we always talk on Tuesdays about consultants. So if you're in the consulting world, or if you're a coach out there, we're going to talk about ROI tomorrow. So join us. We'd love to have you. That's at 3:00 Eastern. And then we've got others throughout the week. So always tune in to see what's coming up next. Any last words, Kevin, before we go?
Yeah, I would just say this week will be what you make of it, right? Today's Monday, and maybe you started already with a negative mindset, right? Maybe you came into today, it's noon on the East Coast, it's 11:30 here in Oklahoma, but maybe you didn't start today the way you wanted it to. That's okay. Take right now 5-10 minutes and hit reset, right? Decide who you're going to be, decide the way that you're going to go think, decide the way that you're going to live, and then go do it, right? It's not going to happen on accident. So own your mindset, and you'll start to own your reality.
Absolutely. Yeah. And somebody here, Amy, refers to your book, Keep Chopping Wood, and what she's talking about. If you don't know that, Kevin just released a new book. It's a great read. It's a quick read, but basically it's talking about that we prepare now for what's coming. So you chop wood now so that, you let it sit. So in the winter you have heat, right? And so it's the same idea with mindset, really, right?
That's right. It's exactly right. You're not going to have a great mindset today, like the best possible. That's okay. You can get better today.
Yeah.
And you keep chopping, and it gets better tomorrow, and it gets better tomorrow. And when you face that big adversity, you'll have the mindset that you need to get through it, because your mindset's going to determine how you get through adversity, whether it takes you out or you battle through it. And so you do the work today mentally to prepare to face that adversity, to face that obstacle, and not just face it, but actually overcome it. And so, Amy, you're right. Appreciate the shout out. But that is the idea, right? It's you do a little bit each day to work on getting better. That's
right. So let's go do it. Let's all go do it. All right. We are so glad you joined us, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Kevin.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.